Everybody, this is Kodak here, and today on the Starter Deck series, we're going to be taking a look at something a little different. This is the two-player starter deck, or one of the two-player starter decks for the Munchkin collectible card game by Steve Jackson Games. Now, on the surface, this seems like the kind of thing, the kind of design that'll be right up my alley, right? I mean, it's a two-player starter deck that flat out says all you need for two players right on the front, and it even comes with a bonus booster pack. Ooh, that sounds like exactly the kind of thing I would enjoy, right? Well, there might be a reason why you haven't heard of the Munchkin collectible card game, and that's because it was a disaster. If you're familiar with the name Munchkin, you probably know why it was a disaster, but I'm going to save that part for later, because as big a problem as that one is, the design of the box that they've done certainly does not help. So, as I established before, this is a two-player starter set, Ranger versus Warrior, that also comes with a booster pack. Although on the plus side, including a booster pack with your starter deck is something that I always advocate, because not only does the deck give you a chance to give your players a chance to try out your game, but including a booster pack also gives them a taste of the variety. And as somebody else cynically put it, gives them, the rush of opening a pack for the first time. Either way, it's always a good thing to throw in. So we're going to take a quick look at the back here before we go back to the front. You can see it has, they also mentioned the booster packs and the other starter decks. There are 6 playable characters in the starter decks. I think there was like a larger set as well, but they have like Wizard versus Bard and Cleric versus Thief. All of the starter decks are two-player starter decks. It also comes with life counters and various tokens. It comes with a whole bunch of cool stuff, and it looks like it's decent quality stuff as well. So that sounds like something I would enjoy, but like I said, there are a number of problems here. The first one is the front of the box here. It is remarkably bland and poorly designed. First of all, you, like I've described before, you want the front of a box to be something that catches somebody's attention, something that really stands out to make people look at this thing and want to walk over and pick it up. And the color that is weakest at doing that is bluish gray. Bluish gray is a color that blends into the shelves. It kind of fades away. It doesn't really draw a lot of attention. Not to mention the artwork that's being used on this cover here, aside from the actual logo here, which again is a bit fuzzy in its design. It's orange over green, which is a bit of a weak combination. But it's the fact that the artwork they're using, which is stock assets off of some of the cards, it's all really small and not very punchy. I mean, with these two, I can tell it's just card art that they slightly rotated, but nothing really, leaps off of this box here to make me want to take a look at it. In fact, everything feels really boxed in by this outline here. Like, you look at games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic, and they'll have artwork that, flows over the sides of the package, and you actually have to, rotate it around to get a full look at the picture, something that makes it feel larger than life, something that you'll spot from a distance away, but keeping the artwork so small means that you'll really only notice this if you're standing right next to it. And honestly, what's the deal with the artwork they've chosen here? It's clearly a, swords and sorcery fantasy scenario, but who's this guy? Why is there an office worker with coffee in a high fantasy game? It's pretty bad. I'll talk about this guy later. And speaking of, things that feel like they don't fit, look at these are supposed to be our character portraits for the characters we're playing as. I mean, yeah, they're tiny, but another thing is they don't look like they're from the same game. They look like they're from different games, because you have the Ranger over here. He's got all this soft shading without any, this sort of lineless soft shading that almost makes him look like a clay figurine, versus the Centaur here, who has a lot of heavy line work and definition. In particular, if you look at the eyes here, the this guy's eyeballs. I mean, what's up with the shading on these eyeballs? I mean, in order for the eyeballs to be shaded like this, they would have to, you know, have these are like giant eggs like bulging out of his head or something in order to get that kind of shading. It kind of reminds me of like if you ever took art classes and you had to do that exercise where you had to match the shading of whatever fruit you were looking at. It kind of looks like that, but they applied it to the eyeballs. It's got like these big old like bugged out like frog eyes in that case. But you can see the eyes, they have like no definition. They just have little tiny pupils here versus the centaur over here who has a lot of very clear and clean line work on the eyeballs. This is why a lot of games tend to have like one really nice piece of artwork and then like pictures of the cards or other stock assets. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Uses nothing but stock assets. Magic and Pokemon, they have like one really nice illustration on the front and then they do the rest with stock assets. It's in order to prevent this kind of incongruity created by having the major artwork be done by different artists. Honestly, if this project were up to me, I would have grabbed one of these artists and had them do like an ensemble picture that's like the two of them like having Munchkin. It's supposed to be very silly, having like a comical fight that could like take up the whole screen here, like the centaur like would like reach the top of the artwork so people can like see it from across the store and be like, ooh, what's this? As it is now, the images used are kind of too small and sparse to really catch attention from a mile away. It's not the kind of thing that would inspire me to really pick up this thing and look on the back. In fact, I waited a long time to pick this up. I actually found these on sale at Barnes & Noble for like $10, but I didn't pick them up then because the imagery didn't trip my trigger, although, like I said, if you're familiar with the name Munchkin, there's another reason you probably didn't pick up this game. Although on the back they have some descriptions here. They have the pictures of the booster packs, although the game comes with one. It says, new players should begin with a starter set like this one. Wield potent weapons, cast flashy spells, cheat with impunity. Welcome to an all-new Munchkin experience. This is, well, like I said, I'll explain later. Overwhelm your opponent and recycle your cards as the ranger, smash, pummel, and stomp your way to victory as the warrior. So the back of the box does tell me a lot about the game and what will be featured. It shows me some of the cards I'm going to get in here. It shows me the additional counters and the life counters and the runaway counters. It's not bad. The layout is a bit of a nightmare, though, because, you know, these little explanations on what the characters do are a bit small. I feel like the folks who made this box, who did this layout, didn't quite understand that they really need to push the boundaries on their design to help catch people's attention. But it does. It dedicated like at least a third of the box to advertising the additional products, and I don't know if that was necessarily the best move. And again, it's on this really boring, just bluish gray background. But it does at least say, oh, this is the sort of thing you should grab. It explains how the characters work. 2-player starter decks are nice because you find a friend, you try out the game, you trade the decks, and you play again to see if you like the game. That's good and straightforward. The booster pack shows the potential for variety. That's really nice. Now let's take a look inside. It is a box that you do not have to destroy, although I've talked in previous episodes about packaging for card products that you don't have to destroy and how that's something I like, but I don't understand why some games make the ones where you have to destroy them in order to open them. I've had a chance to ruminate on that, and I now understand exactly why a lot of card games make it so that you have to destroy the package in order to get at the cards inside, and that is to make it tamper evident. It's to, say, prevent somebody from opening the box, taking out all the cards, replacing them with, like, I don't know, used casino decks, which you can get for, like, 50 cents, and then returning it to the store, and then you buy it, and you've been ripped off. If you have to destroy the packaging to get at the cards, then that's not as easy to do. That's a much more difficult thing to do. So I'm still not a fan of it, but I understand why there exist card decks that require you to destroy the packaging in order to get at the products inside. But let's take a look at what we have here. We have a little baggie here. It comes with a die. A die is... dice are good things. Dice, after cards, dice are the most common game piece out there. If you have something you want to do with dice, whether it be randomization, like heads or tails becomes evens or odds, or if you want something that can be used to detect counters on there, six-sided die are your way to go. I mean, every house has die in it. You could buy dice at the local grocery store. It also comes with, like, damage counters that are all pre-punched. This is a pretty premium Mondo, too, and we have some spin up or spin down level counters. I think we got two of them, one for each player. Might have been nice if these came in different colors, and they feel like the standard sort of, that kind of like textured, like nice, like board game cardboard. So these are pretty nice. I mean, I could see these being used like I said, I'll hold off on my descriptions there, but yeah, it's a spin up that goes from it goes from 10 to 1. So it's nice for use as a level counter. And of course we also get our decks. Oh, these didn't belong in here. These are box toppers. I just kind of threw them in there. These are box toppers. A closeout store was selling the booster packs individually, and they didn't know what to do with the box toppers, so they just let me have them. We got our booster pack. We have our ranger deck. We have our fighter deck, and we have a set of instructions, and we have our deck list, and that's all that is in there. So let's have a look. So we have our Centaur Warrior. Now, like I said, this is clearly a game that's supposed to be funny. So, of course, we have a card called the Inhumane Society and Discount Cudgel. The Hydra Axe. It's an axe that you just add more axes onto. That's pretty funny. Whack-a-mole. It's a whack-a-mole, but it's a mall, and it whacks all of them, so you're whacking them all. Not bad with the triple pun there. That's pretty nice. Crushionate. Not so sure about this one. This is clearly an attempt to get some mileage out of the Trogdor Burninate meme. This is I think kind of one of the examples of the problems with the Munchkin TCG is there are some cases where they're clearly trying a little bit too hard. Thwack. Inflatable Dragon. If you overpaid for this, it gains 2 green star, which I assume is power for this fight. So that's kind of funny. I guess the idea is if you overinflate the inflatable dragon, it gets bigger and more dangerous. Might have worked a bit more thematically if it gained even more power, but you had to discard it at the end of the turn or something. Like, you blow it up so much that it gets really big, but then it pops. That might be funny. Face Elemental. Aside from the fact that they gave her a pearl nose, I'm not sure what the joke here is. Is this a reference I'm missing or something? Punch McFacey. I think this is another effort of trying a bit too hard. Barbarian the What's with this guy's arms? Why are his arms so short? Well, that's maybe a bit funnier artwork, but a lot of it is... Oh. Yeah, we're going to set this one aside for later. That's something I need to talk about. Drop Bear, Vanilla Mental, Walking Dreads, Crusty Disgusty. There's our Blandy McBlanderson, the office guy who for some reason is in high fantasy. Lame Goblin, Card Shark, that one's kind of funny. Ferrous Oxide Monster, that's a Rust Monster. Oh, the Gazebo, that's another thing I want to talk about. RN Jesus, maybe that one's kind of funny, although the fact that you have to roll a die to determine his attack power is a bit bupkis. And 3,872 orcs. Yeah, I'll talk about these in a bit. So the Centaur Warrior, I'm seeing things that a lot of weapons, things that cause discounts, weapons that do a lot of damage, and things that allow you to do direct damage. Like, apparently the rules in this game are you can't actually attack with your weapons for some reason. You can only use them to defend unless you're a fighter and you have the card Thwack, which allows you to actually attack with them. So yeah, what you do is you deploy a monster, your opponent deploys their defenses, you actually deploy the monster face down, so you could try to do a dirty trick like forcing like trying to trick your opponent into burning all of their resources, blocking Blandy McBlanderson, and then you hit them with 3,872 orcs in order to hit them when they're off guard after they spent all that effort on Blandy McBlanderson. Then we have the Halfling Ranger. Centaur Warrior, you just zap her, which is, I believe, this game's term for tap. Why do games keep insisting on inventing new words for things that exist in other games when it serves the exact same purpose as that game? Like, I've seen are rest and active what they refer to as tapped and untapped in Japanese? Because I see those a lot too, rest mode and active mode. The Halfling Ranger, and when one of your monsters is squashed, you add it to your stash. The stash in this game is basically when a card would be discarded, if an effect instead moves it to the stash, it gets set aside until your next turn, at which point you add those cards back to your hand. So it essentially allows you to salvage cards to use again. That's kind of a neat mechanic. Alpha Wolf. So, oh, I see. It's supposed to be a fraternity Alpha Wolf. I thought it would have been like an Alpha. I thought it was like referring to like maybe a Magic the Gathering joke where it's an Alpha Wolf from the Alpha set and something else Alpha. I don't know. The Beagle Scout. So it looks like there's a lot of dogs in the Ranger set. Biodegradable armor. There's some more of that sort of clay, sort of buggy-eyed style again. Yeah, that's something I've noticed, is that a lot of these, I mean, I don't know what's going on here, why the Centaur is suddenly a human, but a lot of the artwork on the class unique cards feature artwork of the characters involved, and that, I will admit, is actually kind of neato. Like I said, that's kind of a fun thing to do, is, have a character who's, I look at this character, look, they got this character, then you got the cool stuff that they can do. Kind of wish they'd featured that on the back of the box. Like, have the character card surrounded by a couple of cards that have their image on them to showing them doing cool stuff. That, I think, would get players more in the mood. We have the Bullwhip, which is a weapon that can also turn into a monster. The Catapult, which shoots cats. That's not an old joke. Compost Doja. They're literally trying to invoke the Doja meme. Why? Hairy Scary Bear. I don't know how that's a bear. It looks more like a ram to me with those horns, but ooh, shiny. So yeah, this is kind of a combination of the Salvage Salamander. The Woodland Workout. There's a Barbarian, Librarian, Bodyguard. Oh, these are all the same. These are the same as the ones that came in the Warrior deck. In fact, I think, let's see, what are in the... Yeah, all of the starter decks have the same set of universal cards. It seems like they all get 3,872 orcs and the gazebo and the chainsaw of bloody dismemberment. So I do kind of wish they could get some different universal cards. They all share the same universal cards. I think I might have liked to have seen a bit better variety. I guess the idea is that if you buy one of these, you get a few play sets of cards you can use. The rulebook in here actually doesn't say anything about deck construction or anything like that. That might have been nice to include in the rules, like including a full rule book. Like, it's a fold out 2-sided poster that just talks about the basic rules. It doesn't actually come with this game mat here, which might have been nice. It does mention the rules on how to play the game, even if there's nothing about deck construction. So it tells you what you need to know just to get the game started. But I still would have liked it if they'd packed in a full set of rules rather than making you look it up online, because that's kind of hard to do on the spot. Like, if you're playing this at a game store or something, it's a bit harder to do. I mean, it's no fun pulling up a PDF on your phone, believe you me. So of course it also comes with a booster pack, which we in the studio have prepared and opened in advance. So, like I said, it gives you a taste of some of the new cards. Like, we have the Ally Bertha, which has the Where's My Water Duck on the front of her shield, and obnoxiously large helmet wings, or those are actual wings, and she also has helmet wings too. The Purple Loot Us. Zap, take 1 damage, take 1 gold, and then squish this. So this is clearly a reference to the Black Lotus of Magic the Gathering. It clearly is designed to have a similar effect, although it comes with a damage penalty. I mean, even if Black Lotus cost you 3 life to play for those 3 mana, I think it would still be worth it. The Clobber Knocker. Smack, zap this during your turn to deal 1 damage to target hero or target stashed monster. That was like something the Centaur Warrior had. 99 bottles, the classic song. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Encore. After this resolve, stash it instead of discarding it. So it gets set aside in your stash pile so that you can play it again next turn. This I have to admit, this is a well-designed card. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, you know, that old song, that song you sing on road trips where you count down by 1 and you do it again. Adding that to a card that recycles itself, that I admit, that's a good piece of card design right there, where the joke, this is a joke, this is, like, I think so far in this game, the first joke that has been executed well. It's a famously long song that loops over and over again, combined with an effect that allows you to use it multiple times, or even endlessly if your opponent does nothing to disrupt your stash. So this is a joke that went off. Bravo. We also have the Shrieking Fans. These are for the Orc Bard. You can tell the class the card is by its background color. Like the gray ones can be used by anybody. The orange ones are for the Bard. We have the Doja card again. The Rar card again. We have the Squirrel card. I can't quite make it out. It's kind of weird. Is this supposed to be a full art card? Because that's a weird choice for full art card. And of course it partners with a monster named Moose. So you have Moose and Squirrel. Man, we're really getting ancient on those references now, aren't we? That's what, from like the 60s, the 50s? When was Rocky and Bullwinkle? I mean, they had a movie in like 2000, but Relentless Slobber Beast, move all committed allies to their owner's hand. Land War Elf. So this is a reference to, of course, Land War Elf, and it references the card Land, which I believe all of the starter decks got a copy of. They got 1 copy of Land, which has an effect. Oh, where is it? Pull, yeah, there it is, Land. So Land of War Elves allows you to pull out the Land card. This is kind of a reference to the famous Magic card Land of War Elves, although it doesn't quite work like Land of War Elves at all. Land of War Elves are a mana ramp creature. You can tap them and use them as though they were a land, so this one misses a little bit. Like I've said, so far only 99 bottles has really landed the joke. Portal Combat. That's kind of funny. Play when checking for cheating. Oh yeah, you can cheat in this game. You set your monster face down and say, hey, I'm attacking with a monster. You'd better be prepared to defend for it. You can actually make it so that you can play. You don't actually have to place a monster card to do that. You're allowed to bluff, which means that your opponent has to decide whether to spend their free runaway for the turn, or if they try to, or if they've already spent their free runaway for the turn, take 2 damage to try to avoid it. If they actually call your bluff, if they actually deploy resources for it, you instead take 1 damage. This card goes to the stash, and they get all of the resources they spent calling your bluff back. So, kind of interesting. Oh, is that the last one? I guess so. This one works. This is a comedy card I see appearing in like any other game. This, like I said, this 99 bottles card, this is good game design right here. It thematically ties in with its name, and its idea works with the ability text. So it tells a story with its attributes. This is a well-designed card. The big problem with this is a lot of the cards don't, and I think it's time to bring up the elephant in the room, because the biggest problem with the Munchkin trading card game is, of course, this. The Munchkin card game. The Munchkin card game is... bump the mic there, sorry. The Munchkin card game is another Steve Jackson game. This is the original game. What it is it is a card game that is essentially a send-up of Murder Hobo TCG, tabletop RPG gaming. So what happens is you have... your goal is to be the first character to be level 10. That's not the case in Munchkin RPG. You actually go up a level at the end of your turn each turn, which tells you how many certain resources you have at a time. This is how much gold you have to spend on your turn is up at your level. Reaching level 10 doesn't win you the game. Reducing your opponent's health from 20 to 0 is how you win the game. With Munchkin, your goal is to hit level 10. So what I was alluding to before is that these would be good counters for the Munchkin game. And what you do is you have door cards and treasure cards. And what you do in Munchkin is first you kick down the door, and whatever happens in there, if there's like a monster on the other side, you have to fight it. Let me see. Like, if you kick down the door and there's a monster on the other side, you have to fight it. But if you win, you gain a level and you get to take some treasure. If there's anything else, if it's like... Oh, there it is. There's a... Speak of the devil. There is a 3,872 orcs. And the gazebo. And let's see, do I have another one in here? I think the other one is in the... but we also have... but you might also flip, like, a character class, or let me see. You might also flip up a race, or let's see. Do I see it here? Yeah, you might flip up a race or something. So what happens is in this card, you start as a human of whatever gender you are, and you might draw cards that change your class, that give you a character class, or change your character race, or gives you other sorts of crazy special abilities. There's actually a card in here that, for the purposes of the game, actually flips your gender. There's a lot of good stuff here. I'm keeping these two cards out here for a reason, but one of the reasons... Munchkin is a game you might... If you've ever been to, like, an anime convention or, like, a gaming convention, if it's one of those conventions that, you know, sticks around for, like if they don't close at night, if you stay, like, late at night at one of these conventions, that is when people start busting out, like, the really weird card games. Oh, yeah, there it is. Cursed Sex Change. You go from female to male or male to female. However, the change is permanent. Okay, so the change is permanent. So it just says, hey, so if so it doesn't say you go from male to female. Heck, if you're gender fluid, you go to genderless. So whatever floats your boat, man. But the great thing about Munchkin is it's a game that's a send-up of tabletop RPGs. It is, the artwork was done by John Kovalik, who did a comic book called Dork Tower, which is a comic that is a send-up of these sorts of shenanigans players get up to in tabletop RPGs. So that's why that worked so well in that case. I keep whacking the camera and the mic. I'm sorry, guys. But another thing is a lot of the comedy. I don't know how many of you have heard of the story of the Dungeons and Dragons gazebo, but what happened was there was the players, they walk out into the field and the dungeon master says, you see a gazebo, but one of the players didn't know what a gazebo was. He thought the gazebo was a name of a monster, so he attacked it, and everybody was confused, but nobody said anything because it turned out to be hilarious. And at the end, you know, guys, this gazebo, it's so powerful, I'm shooting arrows at it and it doesn't look like it's getting hurt because it's an inanimate object, little does he know. And the DM is like, no one can help you, you must face the gazebo alone. So there's a mechanic in Munchkin where a player can help another player fight a monster, in which, but you know, they have to, like, they negotiate. There's a lot of politics in the game of Munchkin. You can say, I'll do it, but you have to give me that cool treasure. The gazebo forces you to fight alone. That's literally the final line from the D&D gazebo copy pasta. There are other examples of this, but like I said, this is a game where it's a game where anybody can you can actually deal another player in at any time. You can deal in anybody who's playing this game, like, late at night. I've seen people, like, groups of, like, 12, 13 people playing this game at once, and you can deal anybody in at any time, and it's just phenomenal. Players can, and anybody can jump in. It's one of those games where after you learn about it, typically, you know, you have a couple of Munchkin games that pop up at nighttime, and then people are like, ooh, I gotta get me a copy of that Munchkin. But the great thing about Munchkin, I mean, it has the sense of humor. It's like, well, on a 1 or 2 they stomp you to death, otherwise lose as many levels as the die shows. The joke behind 372 orcs is that at higher levels in games like Dungeons and Dragons, it takes a lot of minions in order to be a threat to the player. So in this context, you know, it's kind of funny. It's like there has to be that many orcs to be a level 10 challenge. In this game, they're just 3,872 orcs. Okay, why so many? And the gazebo card, it's clearly a copy of the gazebo card here, but it doesn't have any reference to anything like no one can help you, you must face the gazebo alone. I mean, admittedly, the gazebo one is a bit of an in-joke, but one that isn't an in-joke is one that comes from the treasure stack that you get from fighting monsters, and that is the Chainsaw of Bloody Dismemberment. You can see here, you know, that's... I don't know what to think of this right here. I mean, it's a guy, he has a chainsaw, and he's dismembered some people. Look at the artwork from the original Munchkin game. This is... You can see it's the same thing. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous seeing like a chainsaw appear in like a Dungeons and Dragons setting. Something that this one kind of loses, seeing as, you know, they have a picture of an office worker on the front. But in this case, I mean, look at who's carrying the chainsaw. It's this, you know, it's this happy friar guy. The last kind of guy you would think would have a chainsaw of bloody dismemberment. It is comical juxtaposition at its finest. That is one of the big reasons that Munchkin is so good, is because it is very tongue-in-cheek. It is not strict about how it's written. There is a mechanic where you can literally gain a level by bribing the game master with food. There's another one where you boil an anthill, which is based on a joke. Well, it's like, well, every ant I kill is worth an experience point, so if I kill 7,000 of them by boiling their anthill, then definitely gain up a level. I mean, it's, invoke obscure rules, whine at the GM, Limburger and anchovy sandwich. That's kind of funny on its own. And of course, with the magic missile, reference to a spell, instead it's a giant rocket. I think that's maybe one of the benefits of the Helm of Courage, because you can't see anything. That's a reference to a British game show, if I recall correctly. The Helmet of Courage, that you can't see anything because it connects to like a blue screen, amazing world. But another great thing about Munchkin was that it was modular. You could buy the game, but of course there were other Munchkin games like Space Munchkin and Super Munchkin, which had different themes. Like you had one that, like, you know, Space Munchkin was like a Space Marines, Star Wars, Star Trek send-up, and you had Super Munchkin, which was all about superheroes. I remember I pulled off an insane combo in Super Munchkin once, where there's a weapon that's like Wolverine claws, which for each empty hand I had an additional 3 to my level, and I got 2 cards that gave me additional hands, so I had 6 hands, and all of them were empty, so basically I was like Wolverine with 6 arms. It was awesome. That's the kind of thing that happens in Munchkin. You don't choose your class. The cards choose your class for you, and that's different from how it is in this game. In this game, you choose your class, and I think a lot of it is, you know, we have to have the strict... We can't have, like, the sort of comical rule writing you have, you know, in a lot of the Munchkin cards, where they have you know, like jokes and stuff added there, like potted plant, bad stuff, none, escape is automatic. Level 6, shrieking geek, you become a normal, boring human, oh no. What's another one? What was the good one? We have, the stoned golem. Bad stuff. He has the munchies. He eats you. You're dead. Like, that kind of comedy that doesn't really work in a strict, like, tournament, like, trading card game environment. But like I said, like I was saying before, I just keep going off on tangents. You could upgrade Munchkin. Like, they sold, like, sets of cards. Of course, there were some that just, you know, offered upgrades, let you buy some more cards that just kind of get added, shuffled into the deck. You could actually shuffle all of them together, but they also had, like, some that were, like, Christmas themed or something like that. But then they also put out sets that actually change how the game itself feels. Like, you have Munchkin Fairy Dust, which encourages players to cooperate, or the Munchkin Omicon, which disincentivizes players from cooperating with each other. It's a very robust game. I don't know if it finally hit fatigue or what, but anytime somebody discovers Munchkin, you know, that's a new person who's going to start up a new set. So I don't know if it's just lost steam in recent times, and that's why they tried to turn it into a trading card game or something like that. But like I said, it doesn't violate one of the 7 deadly TCG sins. It violates a sort of more fundamental product design rule. Never compete with yourself because you are going to lose. If you try to put out alternative products to what you have, if you're putting out a media franchise, if it's something that like causes a tug of war between, if it's 2 products that you make that are a tug of war between your audience, like having a buildable card game versus a collectible card game, this is a game that sells additional stuff in just little installments versus something that sells basically with no upper limit by selling it in booster packs, you are going to risk splitting your audience. And one of those, or perhaps even both of those, are going to lose. Like the example I used was Light Seekers, where in the case of Light Seekers, they had a toy that was supposed to be this awesome Toys to Life toy that tied to a video game, but they also put out a card game, which was 1, way more interesting than the toys, and 2, provided a lot more value for the toys. Like if you bought the toys, you'd get a couple of cool cards, you'd get a new weapon, you'd unlock some skill trees. But that was like $70. If you bought a single pack of cards, that's 9 whole new things that you could do in the game. It unlocked new attacks and new powers and all sorts of new crazy stuff for way, way less than the toys. So the card game kind of kicked the toys' butt in that case. But yeah, that's the Munchkin collectible card game. Its biggest problem was that it tried to compete with Munchkin Classic, and the secondary mistakes of not having that same sense of humor, like I said, with one notable exception in the form of 99 bottles, and not having, terribly attractive artwork kind of doomed it. So yeah, that's a look at the Munchkin collectible card game. I'll be looking at I've been picking up a bunch of card games as quarantine has been going on. Maybe I'll take a look at some more of them. But this is the Munchkin collectible card game, and until next time, this is Kodak signing off.